Well, to discuss the issues facing the mountain kingdom of Lesotho as it celebrates its 55th year of independence from Britain, we're now joined by our correspondent there, Rapelang Radebe. He's in Maseru. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. I suppose COVID-19 has leveled things a little bit down, haven't they? But still a significant day for the Basotho.
You're absolutely right. Things have really sort of calmed down a bit, I think, when it comes to issues of the pandemic. Basotho went through a terrible time, especially with the second and third wave, lack of oxygen, lack of proper facilities. And these are things that you would think at the 55 years, they should not really be things that matter that much for a population of hardly 2 million people.
So what are people celebrating? I mean, when they look back on 55 years, what are they celebrating?
That is a question that has been lingering to most of, especially dominating the social media, if one can say it. Should we really be going out planting trees? Is it not time that we heavily debate and engage in critical issues as to whether our independence is worth anything? Are we even in a position to actually say we are independent, we are liberated? What is it that we can point towards? Where are we going? You will remember that in 2024, Basotho as a nation will be celebrating 200 years founded as a nation. And the question is, if now 55 years of independence, close to 150 years as a nation, can we really look into anything and be proud of, except for lingering poverty, extreme poverty, nowadays even harrowing the violence against women and children, just senseless killing that seems to be so sporadic and just eating this nation.
How has the royal family been celebrated over the 55 years? Some countries start to struggle with the idea of a monarchy in the modern day, but in some countries, like the United Kingdom, very much a part of the fabric of society. What's been the story in Lesotho?
You are right. I think Lesotho has had a moment to reflect, drawing back to the recent reforms. You know, after a state of violent political turmoil, Lesotho has had to go through the help of SADC, of course, to sit down and reshape and rethink the Lesotho they want. So amongst that, I think we're coming towards the end of those reforms, of which they question, some approve, the question as to whether the monarchy is still relevant. Most of them saying the monarchy remains the only bond, I think, to Basotho, and they said maybe they should be given slightly more powers, such that where there are problems, the monarchy has a voice, because currently, you know, we have a constitutional monarchy of which really does not meddle into political issues and affairs. But some of Basotho were saying maybe it's about time that when things we cannot come to a conclusion, the king should intervene. And some others saying they're really questioning as to whether the role of monarchy in the modern day democracy is still a relevant one. Of course, there will be also issues of whether the size of the cabinet really matters, and as to whether what is the role as a country should be looked. Should we rather be saying we are part of the broader picture, which is SADC? Is it even worth that a country of less than 2 million people is worth calling itself? Or there has to be some sort of an arrangement, maybe with South Africa. Look, these are questions that younger people are raising, but older people will be very reserved as to whether they would want to see what they have known all their lives maybe dissipate into something new that, looking at what Brexit went through, probably they don't want to gamble that.
Did the king have a message for the people today?
I was a little taken aback because I had expected actually one of the the reason I thought I would have better shots was because he was supposed to be part of the program. But I don't know whether due to, COVID restrictions nowadays, he was advised otherwise, but we ultimately just had the Prime Minister. Usually the king is glad in his regalia, he will go and greet the people. It's the moment that the nation gets to be very close proximity with the king. But it was not the case this time. We will probably get an explanation as to why he did not show up in this particular. It could be because of COVID restrictions.
And I guess getting independence from the United Kingdom, from Britain, means that there's been this relationship between the United Kingdom ever since independence, but it was broken in recent years, wasn't it?
Very true. Actually, for the past 19 years, the British Embassy closed its door, but there was a lot of negotiations, sometimes even to an extent of that the prince was actually sent to Britain in a very rare occurrence where he was a high commissioner, which is something that hardly ever happens. But I think his relationship with, Prince Harry, very close community, I think could have been a persuasion for them to reconsider. And they have started projects like Centeval, of which Prince Harry takes a keen interest in developing that foundation. So I think following that kind of closer relationship, it led to 3 days ago that Britain actually reopened its door to renew its friendship and to have stronger ties with Lesotho it once knew. Lesotho still relate very well, and I think to some extent they actually think they are part of the British.
So you mentioned young people a little bit earlier, and I just wonder, a country that's 55 years old, the future is theirs, but do you have a challenge of keeping young people in the country? Because I guess it's a great place to grow up, and then you get to a certain age, and a lot of kids love to travel, don't they?
Absolutely. It's quite challenging, actually, and interesting to view and understand how younger people think. I have a friend who resides in United Kingdom. He let his son come over to Lesotho for about 3 years just to have the foundation, to go to school here, to grab the basics of Lesotho, the language and the culture. And when he went back to UK, he was pretty happy. I think some sense of identity. So I get a lot of Basotho who will do phenomenally internationally in the diaspora, but most of them will want to keep their roots intact. And often they will tell you that their retirement place will always be somewhere in the mountains after they have gone around the world. But then you have those who really see Lesotho as just another tourist destination, and some will say it does not live up to their expectations and does not offer enough opportunities. So to young people, it's an open book.
And Lesotho's position and place in the region, what have been the reflections about what the future looks like? I mean, it does look like a troubled kingdom has found some peace, and now it's trying to build, I guess, for the future.
Yeah, I think you'll pick it up with my slightly longer conversation with the Prime Minister, Dr. Majoro, when he said, really, Basotho have wasted time in wrong things. They have been all about themselves. There has been fighting after fighting. Look at when Lesotho went to elections like 3 times in 5-year term, 2 army officials killed. At that time, it really looked like the future is quite bleak. But I think there is some sense of reawakening of people trying to see that, you cannot continue doing without taking accountability of how things are going. And he was saying, with the resources Lesotho has, the water that comes from the Maluti, that comes to South Africa, the mining, the quality of the diamonds that they have. Nowadays, they're venturing into the agriculture, especially with the citrus fruits, the apples and stuff. There's quite a lot of opportunities economically that Lesotho can actually become the hub. Somebody was saying, look, you are at the center of South Africa, between Johannesburg, between Cape Town, between Durban. You are right at the center. And if somebody can want to turn things around, this can become somehow a middle ground whereby it can be a central South Africa with good relationship with the Free State. There's quite a potential, but I don't know. Lesotho seems to get caught in their own little grievances and will take 5 steps backwards and takes 10 steps backwards.
Have there been messages coming in from other countries of congratulations?
Oh yes, indeed. Britain, I think, was the first, the fresh ambassador. But I have also been seeing on my Twitter account quite an activity of people, even of other nations, wearing Lesotho hats, glad in their blankets, really trying to and you'll remember today it's a holiday for Lesotho, so really there is some observation that goes into that. But nowadays it looks like the braai is taking over. A lot of Lesotho just find it a good time to cross over into South Africa, do a bit of shopping to celebrate independence.
And congratulations on 55 years of independence.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, and that's where we're going to leave it for the time being.